Welcome to The Truth in His Art. I am your host, Rob Lee. Thank you for tuning in to my conversations at the intersection of arts, culture, and community. We're not going to draw this out much further, get a little bit more animated. I'm going to draw some conclusions. I hope you like those pen and pad illustration puns because I have my next guest, an illustrator and cartoonist who blends cartoonish and realistic elements in his unique, absurd realism style, engaging in projects from murals in New York and Los Angeles to an album cover for Blueprint's Falling Down. He's the co-creator of Poctober Sketchbook, a comic and zine which features essays, interviews, and numerous collections of ink drawings that showcase Black and POC punk and punk adjacent artists. Please welcome Southside Frank. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you, Rob. Good to be here.
Good to have you here. Good to have you here. And, I like when I get a referral and then, we do the interview, we're able to connect, and then I can already see, right? Like you're going to be one of the good ones. I can already see it. I already have the energy. And as I like to always say, since we're on this video, right? Thank you for wearing your glasses.
Oh, yeah. I was like, should I wear them? Should I not wear them? But someone said I look studious in my glasses, so I got to represent,
I put on tiny glasses whenever I do anything arts oriented. These are my quasi they're kind of expensive, but quasi cool guy glasses.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Oh man, I should have worn my tiny glasses.
We'll do a wardrobe change.
Word.
So thank you so much for making the time. And, as we go in, I like to start off, and some people say level set, but I like to really let the guests really present who they are. I find a lot of times I'm talking to folks who, aren't able to say who they are and how they want to say, who they are and all of that, and describe their work in a way that feels authentic sometimes. And then in other instances, I get the, online bio, I get the artist statement, and inevitably, it almost never fails, something is missing. So I want to open it up and give you the space to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself and your work.
Okay. What's up? I'm Frank, or also known as Southside Frank, a little moniker that's stuck, and I'm an artist from Columbus, Ohio. I've been doing this thing for professionally for maybe 6, 7, 8 years. And I'm still learning and growing. And that's always something I'm looking forward to. Right now, I am a freelance artist. I work for commissions, and I also, my other gig is art related because I make patterns for giant murals that get painted in New York and LA. And that's the gist of it. I just kind of feeling my way out here, get my feelers out, and I'm looking for inspiration and just trying to stay consistent and driven.
I love it. And, as a person who is interested in illustration, I was really interested in comics. There's a version, right? There's a universe. Maybe it's one of those ones that's been pruned off where I'm a comic book artist instead of a podcaster. And I kind of chose that side of the fork in the road of creativity versus the other side. And I was able to, through doing this, revisit sort of illustration and comics more as a writer than actually illustrating. So I'm always looking at you illustrator types, screw you, but also it's envy. It's all envy and admiration, really.
Well, I started taking on the name artist and illustrator, but I looked at it, it's still like a recent development in my eyes, even though I've drawn all the time or painted all the time, but to really be completely focused on it. And I just started doing this, sticking with this, because everything else was sucked. I ain't doing that. I ain't doing that. I ain't doing that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think when you find a thing that you're interested in and that it satisfies you, you know, it's something that you got to do. You know what I mean? It's something that you have to just chase to see, like, all right, let me see how far I can go with this. Is this truly a thing, or is it or am I just flirting with it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, 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 man. I mean, I'm not trying to like be so self-deprecating, but man, I looked at everything else. I'm like, uh, I got to stick with this right now. I got to make it work, because nothing else was working.
I've been doing podcasts. This particular podcast coming up on 5 years, as we're recording this, and I've been a podcaster for about 15. I still don't know if I'm good at it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's kind of that thing of, because it matters, you're always your hardest critic. You're always questioning, but you want to stay at it. It's an obsession almost.
yeah, yeah. That's the word. That's the word right there. Obsessed. I'm obsessed. Yeah.
So, and let's talk a little bit about like the beginning of sort of the creative journey, because I got a little bit, maybe it was written by you, who knows, but I got a little bit about this background of yours that goes back further. So tell me, further than like in the last few years, as you were touching on, and like really the work that you've been doing over the last, like 6 to 7 years. So talk a bit about some of those early instances where you even like looked at art, that you even considered creativity as a potential outlet. Because I see, Columbus College of Art and Design in your background, and
Mhm.
some other stops along the way. So I want to like open that up again. Where's the journey sort of begin for you?
Okay. I mean, I guess when I was a kid, because I've been drawing and interested in art since I was a kid. Um, I mean, even then, like my friends were creative types too. I mean, I look back and like I've always surround myself around people like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, my father, he drew. He passed away when I was a kid, but he drew and painted, and he was like hardworking dude, and he kind of put his art to the side for his family. But I grew up learning that he wanted to be an architect at some point, you know, and he was in Vietnam, but he had like this journal, this hardcover book with black pages that he would write and draw in, and he
Mhm.
had his cartoons in it, and he's like, putting his thoughts about the war and the situation and stuff. But it had these funny cartoons all along the writing, which is like contrast with the seriousness of what he's writing. And I don't know, that was always yeah, the most influential thing to me. And then, I watched mad TV, like so much TV,
Yeah.
like shameful amount of TV. I was raised by a television, you know what I mean? So I'm definitely an idiot savant when it comes to that type of stuff. And, Looney Tunes and Disney. And I remember I had my first friend, Kelly. Yeah, she drew too, but she had like this Disney book that was mad thick,
Mhm.
and it was all about the history of Disney and had all this art in it. And it was like when I went to art school, they was calling that one of the Bibles of art, or whatever,
Yeah.
animation. And lo and behold, I got it again, like as an adult. It's like it's weird to me, like how this book was so influential. I
Yeah.
might be running off track. I forget what I was talking about. Okay, yeah, okay. And, so yeah, yeah, I drew all the time. Kids in school, hey, can you draw me? Or they always want like some hood cartoons like a pit bull smoking a blunt in a Jeep or something like that. You know what I mean? Or, oh, can you do this tattoo for me? Like, y'all ain't never gonna get this tattoo done. I've done
Yeah.
so many tattoo drawings for people.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
And I would say so this is the thing I used to do back in the day. So as we're recording this, we're wrapping up sort of the season of X-Men 97, right? So, setting that stage, I'm 39. So,
Okay.
of that era where it's just like, Saturday morning cartoons, I was making choices, son. I was just like, academics, nah, X-Men, that's what we're doing. So in class, I used to charge people. I used to draw pictures of Wolverine, and then I would have people pay me for the pictures. I would sit there and sketch instead of. I was I was a good student, right? Like a
Yeah,
solid B without trying. I never really read or studied or anything along those lines. Just up here. So
yeah.
I would get through, my test, and then I would start drawing on whatever. At one point, I did a comic, and then the other point, I would just always just draw pictures of Wolverine. And I just remember one day, teacher came by. She took my comic that I was drawing. I was inking, writing, pencil, all of it, and pitched
No.
it. I was so hot because she was like, "You're disrupting my class because you had a whole economy going on."
Yo, you were smarter than me because I was being a nice guy. You know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, I'll do this drawing for you. You know what I mean? And yeah, someone else told me they grew up hustling their drawings to kids in school. Man, I wish I did that, but it is what it is. I guess I did get better at it after a while. But yeah, I remember making making my own comics as a kid.
Yeah.
Like one was, I look back like, damn, that's weird that I did that.
Yeah.
Like it was about a cat who was an alcoholic who couldn't keep a job, and he'd be drinking on the job, and he always get messed up. He'd get hurt, like brutally damaged or whatever by a lawnmower or something like that. I'm like, that's weird looking back at that.
This cat and his harebrained scheme. I will absolutely be talking to you after this. I have an idea to pitch your way.
Okay, let's get it.
So you said the TV was a piece of it, and some of your dad's draw. My dad's also a Vietnam vet, so that's a thing. Still with us, so really fortunate and happy about that. And some of the art stuff. Parents were definitely around and supporting that. They have no idea what I do now. They're like, "Yeah, you on the radio, right?" And I was like, "Kinda." So talk about some of the artists, the creators, because I think a lot of times we have influences, right, that might not be specific to the genre or the mediums in which we're working in. Like when I'm looking at interviews, when I'm prepping for interviews, I'm going through books, I'm going through other interviewers, I'm going through like just different ways to get to a question and get something out of a person. So for you, it may be isolated to sort of visual, but for you, who are some of your influences? Who are those artists and those creators that had an impact on your world, on your work, and potentially your world?
Yeah, it's so many, right? Like the list goes on. I mean, like somebody who I've been thinking about lately, though, and I've like lately, as in like a few years, is this cat named Dawud Anyabwile. He did Brother Man. He was out of Philly.
Mm-hmm.
And he did a comic, him and his brother did a comic called Brother Man. And this was like in the early 90s,
Yeah.
And I forget how I learned about its existence, probably TV. But man, what he was doing, that was the first time I ever seen somebody who looked like me doing something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, what? I gotta get my hands on this, And I was in the comic books. I would go to some of the local comic book stores, and at the time, man, they didn't know what I was talking about.
Right.
They didn't. They're from a different culture. They're not thinking about what diversity is in the comic industry and what that looks like, and not these like token characters in their favorite books and stuff, or the only guy that has like the only black superhero that got electric powers. What I mean?
I was waiting for you to say that.
Yeah, yeah, but he, so that happened, and I never got my hands on it, but I think it was through Instagram I learned that he was on there. And he had, at the same time I hopped on Instagram, he was putting this new book out, like a new iteration of Brother Man, the character, his story and stuff like that. And it was in color, and these big old pages. And, the dude draws like dynamically. And you can see a little hip hop graffiti style in it.
Yeah.
And I was just impressed and I had to get it. And it was just I don't know how to put it into words, man, but it just like, I don't know, brought me back to my childhood, maybe.
Sure.
But in a new way. Like, he has a message in his stuff. It's not preachy, but it's meaningful. And I'm like, man, I want to do stuff like that. And not only that, he's an interesting guy. He's like, I don't know what you want to call him, for lack of a better term, like Afrocentric or pro-black. You know what I mean? And that mean a lot to me too.
I see that he's also an Aquarius. That means he's great because Lord Aquarius here.
I don't know about all that.
Let's keep this going as friends now. Like,
okay, look, hey, whatever it is, hey, that's what it is. That's what it is, But like, yeah. So I mean, that's the one influence I've been thinking about a lot lately. I was always into like you say you did good in school. I was bad in school. You know what I mean? Like, I wasn't trying to cause trouble, but I just didn't care.
Right.
And I would cut school, and this is some ultra nerdy stuff to me, because I would cut school and go to the library. You know what I mean?
Like, just deeper school.
Yeah, like learning stuff I wanted to learn. And then I learned about underground comics. And then I learned about Robert Crumb, you know what I mean? What's the other dude, man? Harvey Pekar.
Yeah.
And he's from Ohio, and he was an awesome writer. And as the first time I seen somebody just talk about the mundane perspective in their lives, and little pieces of that can be turned into something interesting. I was like, oh, I got a ton of that. I can relate to that.
Yeah, it's definitely sort of a thing when you see sort of a voice that you can connect with, a sort of like, this is the medium, but it doesn't have to be like superheroes. It doesn't have to be done in a certain way. It's like, these are kind of regular people or regular stories, or stories that I can relate to based on sort of your background. Like, I know very little about sort of, I guess you guys are the Midwest, right? I guess.
Yeah. It's called the Midwest. Yeah.
So
I don't know why, but it is.
So I know very, very little about it, but it's one of those things where it's like, what's the identity here? You'll know, like, Chicago. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I know Chicago. It's like, oh, I know, but it's like, the only thing about Columbus I know, or Ohio generally I know, is like, I think the Browns play there. I mean, look, LeBron's from there or something, right?
Yeah. It's definitely about football. I mean, even in Columbus, we got Ohio State.
Yeah.
The college, and it's like a cult when it comes to the football.
But I guess what I was getting at, what I'm trying to fumble through and get at, is like, sort of, those are stories, at least I think, and maybe it's my own ignorance of not really having, sort of that awareness of like sort of the community there, because I hear there's a lot of like artists that are comic artists as a community there, that,
low key. Yeah, low key. And I mean, I don't know what is a big artist community, you know what I mean? But it seems like it's been happening in a more recent time.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but there's a really well celebrated comic guy from here is Jeff Smith. He did Bone, yeah, that's a real popular one for decades. And yeah, I mean, off the top of my head, I have to look too, but there's some people that are doing it now that I'm like really in tune, like picking up what they putting down, like Brian Moss. He's like a mover and shaker doing things and stuff. And there's Staven, and then Taylor Chu, Reagan, of course. So like trying to cultivate community with these people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I mean, outside of that, it's a whole bunch of other people too. You know, I'll buy their comics when I see them, but like the freestyle off the top of my head, I'm terrible with names. You know, I'd have to go through my boxes and all that.
No, 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 no.
But
And
as far as Ohio or Columbus, yeah, I mean, in my eyes, it's not very different from a lot of other places in the United States. You know what I mean? Like big factories, that's their history. A lot of industrial type stuff. Um, you know, gentrification going down everywhere. You know, a lot of little small towns got meth and fentanyl problems. You know what I mean? I just feel like, you know, there's strip malls and big fat roads with all these franchises up and going up and down them. You know what I mean?
I think I did see that actually. I think I did see sort of like they had this list of these sort of major quote unquote cities that are considered the hubs people are moving out of because they're being priced out of, and they're looking for like sort of the next tier is even expensive because of the recession and all of that different stuff. And so it's like people are being priced out. When you look at like for a one bedroom, right? Like a one bedroom apartment is 3,500. It's like, yeah, you out here, you know what I mean? And
That's crazy.
so folks are looking at sort of places that are on the come up. Now, the thing that gets me, and this has nothing to do because I got a question I'm going to ask you in a second that relates to kind of where we were talking at the sort of early stages of things, but you know, getting a sense of the current climate, you know, it, we see it in different places. It's just like, you know, let's say you have a list of 5 different markets where a person can go, right? Where a person can move. The first one, you're going to be priced out. The second one and the third one, now you're being priced out because of the cost as well. So you're looking at that fourth and fifth option. And Baltimore is, you know, where I'm based, moving into that sort of second option. And it's getting kind of expensive. More and more people are moving it. I've seen so many Virginia tags because it's probably cheaper than Virginia, the Northern Virginia. And it's not DC, but it's close enough to New York and Philadelphia.
Right. Right.
And that's the thing. It's like, how close are you to one of the hubs where, okay, I'll just drive a little bit further. It's fine. You know, I can get my career off and make this, you know, this bread or what have you.
Yeah. Yeah. They call it, you know, the heart of it all.
Yeah.
Ohio. That's a little slogan or whatever. And I mean, as sometimes I think things are so small, but I've met people from all over the place here. Sure. Like all over, yeah. And you know, there is like some culture here. I mean, not like like New Orleans or something like that, but there is some, and I guess the more people integrate or whatever, you know, there's stuff happening, you know.
I have this question that I like a lot. Like, you know, I mentioned the Aquarius thing earlier, right? Because that's what I am. And we're one of the strangest groups in the whole zodiac or what have you. And I know when I encounter an Aquarius, because it's like, yo, we have some weird stuff. So, but I think we embrace it, right? We gravitate towards it, those unique things, and we're philanthropic, all of these different things. But it's like knowing yourself, right? Mm-hmm. So how do you embrace sort of your unique traits, your strangeness, if you will, as it relates to your work? Like those things that make you unique to the work that you're making. Like you touched on a little bit with Dawud's work and how that really resonated with you. Because, you know, you're I think you're a black man. You're a black man. So, you know.
I'm 100% black. ain't no mystery.
So that's the thing, and I would imagine it's seasoned and peppered in your work, whether it be from the perspective or even, you know, sort of we've never met, right? And being able to chat it up and knowing those things is like, oh, that's actually a thing to joke about. That's actually a thing that's kind of funny because it's that experience, it's that connection of being a black person. Like sometimes it's just like, again, it's knowing yourself. Like I know that I'm competitive. I know that I am petty in a way that I want people to fail. But if you dare come against me, you know what it is. You know what's up. I got 17 diss tracks coming out. I got a producer making a song about you that everyone else gonna. Never mind. We know where that's going. But
Right. What y'all know about Kendrick? What y'all know about Kendrick?
But I think the thing is that in what I'm hearing is that you're sort of the lightheartedness, that sense of humor, however it might be, your sense of humor is yours, and
Yeah.
that's the thing. Like when I do this, I make these not even these wild swings. It's just my perspective is this. Like I think that chefs are jazz musicians, right? And the sort of improvisation of it all. And we have these types of conversations, making those things, those connections that most people don't even see, or or presenting it in a different way through having all of these conversations. I remember having the experience, and I applied it to sort of the teaching gig I was talking about before we got started. And I just remember I was observing, because I think it's really interesting to get that feedback about what you do creatively from a group of people. And I sat in, on like a listening party for my podcast. I didn't say anything because of my voice, obviously, right? And I say something in the pod that's so corny and dumb, but it was funny and people laughed at it. I was like, okay, that works. Write that shit down. And it was literally like, it was one of the guys, he was like a major radio executive I was interviewing. And I was like, man, keep dropping them jewels, man. It's like caramel falling in my mouth. And they were like, okay, that's really funny. And that's literally my sense of humor. And that's what I'm putting out there. My uniqueness is just me, just being the real me in this podcast. And I would hazard to bet that's you when you're putting out your work.
Yeah. And it's like you said, it's like knowing who you are. You know what I mean? Like knowing what you bring to the table or whatever, or wanting to share what you have. And to people that are receptive, and that's why I say competitiveness. I use that word, but it could be thought of as a negative word. But I think there's room for everybody because everyone's an individual. You know what I mean? Everyone has something unique to say, to share. So there's always room, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
yeah, I just try to lead with that.
It's one of the things, it's like, and see, I'm gonna make it rap again. I'm gonna go right back to rap. It's not like, what is it, 07, 08, 09, Lil Wayne. I don't need to be featured on everything.
You're right.
Like there's some feature gigs out there for other folks. Now I'm not gonna turn it down, but also I'm like, hey, have you talked to this person? Have you talked to this person? Maybe this person's more aligned with your sort of podcasting needs or what have you, or making that referral if it's like, hey, I don't know if this is quite a fit, but it's like when it's that opportunity to show out on them fools,
Yeah.
you're gonna
Yeah.
do it. You're like, I still got this.
Right. You show up. That's all. Yeah,
Yeah,
you gotta show up and show out when it's your turn to shine. Yeah.
100%. So
Yeah.
I want to move into this thing out here because I definitely want to ask about absurd realism, but I got a question before that. So what was that draw? And I say a lot of puns, so just rock.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with it.
What was that initial draw for you to like illustration, cartooning, murals, to the sort of visual expression? It's like, I know there were some things that were of interest to you, but what was that draw that you were like, all right, I got to do this. This is really that the moment, if you will, or the series of moments that this was informative for you. This was like, no, I got to do this. This is going to be a part of my life.
Doing music, it gave a lot to me, you know, and I enjoyed it, and I like collaborating with people and things like that. But when I get to the business side of it, it makes me want to throw up, And I started doing like leaning more on doing visual art, and it gave back to me a lot sooner, you know. And it's not like music where you have to put on a persona or be big. You can just like chill. At least how I see it. You know what I mean? I don't have to perform in the same way. And the people that I meet, I can have we touch on some kind of intellectual level, and not to like diss anybody that rap or nothing like that, but there's a lot of knuckleheads. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was one too for the longest time.
Yeah.
But like, just I don't know, just it like when I start doing more art, like I just saw it giving back more back to me than toiling in music. So I was like, this is my lane. I'm gonna be here, and I could do it till I'm old and gray. You know what I mean? I'm already gray, a little old, but I'm like mad feeble and what I mean, drooling on myself. So
I'm trying to hang on. Like when I get a gray, I plucks it. I don't care when
Nah, yeah.
you come back.
I
I don't
can't
care about none of that. I don't believe it.
I can't do nothing about it, man. I can't do nothing about it. I don't want to use that just for men and like that or Beijing. That's too obvious. You feel
Look,
me?
before I said I'm just gonna go with this sort of Jason Statham stubble, it was just like, yo, bro, we're gonna put that Beijing. I was like, no, I don't want that. Yeah, we can get a unit for you. I was like, I don't want that either. Like, can we do something better? Can we do something? Can we use your trade? Can we use your ability with razors? Nah.
Right. Yeah, man. So I mean, it to me it's just more longevity in it. And I can say more, I can say a lot more. I mean, not that I couldn't through music, but to me, it's just my opinion that, there's only so much you can say in music,
But I think you're onto something there, and this is why. So this is encroaching on my lane, right? How many washed rappers? I'm just going to be an East Coast guy right now. How many washed rappers have a podcast now?
Oh, yeah. Well, okay, yeah, washed. I mean, I wouldn't call. Are you washed if you like got your podcast popping and people are tuning in?
But it's the shift, I guess. It's like, doing something that has a bit more longevity than I can't be in these clubs. I can't be out here at 50 rapping about slinging rocks or whatever. It doesn't work the same. And again, it's not a knock. It's more of a, I struggle with this notion of sort of fame and notoriety. People who talk about don't diss the bag and someone getting the bag. It's like, I'm all for it. But a lot of times when you see these sort of deals and people doing that, it's like, was it a money grab for whatever you were doing creatively? What's in it? Like, I'm doing this because I'm interested in having conversations with people. It's not like, because there have been some options, there have been some offers, and it's just like, I have scruples. I have things that matter to me where, it's a struggle. And then, as an educator in that sort of lane, and then having, these kids thinking like, yeah, you just got to do this. And it's just like, no, this person's already famous. This is their second career, and trying to like make that distinguishment there. But it's slightly different. Like, you do something for a while, and I like the way that you put it, of going back to the sort of thing that you said, where, it's a shelf life for some of these things. Like, one of the things I think of, like, what is the exit strategy for me from a career standpoint? Like, when I start having, like, let's say if I had a laboring job, I type on a computer all day. But if I had like a labor job, there's a certain shelf life there. I can't be operating at the same capacity in my 50s. You know what I mean?
Big facts.
So it's kind of that, but across different areas and different mediums. So it's just knowing where you're fitting that, having a plan. But I just always think, like, maybe it's hokey, but trying to do it for the right reasons. That's sort of what my thing is always. So I'm reading in here, and I touched on it a little bit earlier. Absurd realism. Can you elaborate on like what that means and sort of how it influences your artistic choices?
Okay, so I mean, yeah, I'll try. Like,
Great.
so absurd realism is what I'm calling my style, and it's more, I guess you say, you could relate it to the lowbrow art movement. A lot of pop culture references and stuff that wouldn't necessarily go in the mainstream of like fine art or anything like that. But on a deeper level, it's just my perspective. I think how I believe, you know, a lot of things are backwards in this world, and I'm trying to reflect it in the cartoons or illustrations that I do. You know, and maybe someone might understand it, and some people won't. But that's essentially what I'm doing. Like I guess most of us are. I mean, you could do like a more introspective thing and like shoot that out into your work.
Yeah.
But I ain't that vulnerable.
You're not
I'm just
there
like,
yet.
yeah. I'm like, look at this fool. Look at this crap. Like this, look at this BS.
You just wait. Like you were touching on earlier. Like maybe a few years. It's just like
yeah, it might happen. It might happen, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll absolutely be before we wrap on the pod. We'll definitely dive back into that to help have some ears. I don't know how many people from Columbus or in the area listen to the pod, but it doesn't hurt.
I'm just trying to talk about my books, me and Reagan's books. I mean, it's cool. Like people come to the show too. I mean, I know it'll be a nice little party. That's how I'm looking at it. This is a little party, in the hood or whatever.
So tell me a bit, because we're definitely going to talk about the books and this following question, the question after this one. So talk about your creative process currently as it relates to like illustration, relates to like, sort of that work or what have you. What does that conceptualization look like? What does the process looks like? Those sort of intermediate steps, and when do we get to that final step when you're like, all right, I'm good with this?
Yeah. Right now, I think a lot of stuff I draw is I'm trying to write comics, like so I'm doing a lot of character design. And so I don't know. It's like it don't feel like nothing forced, but I'd come up with characters that's like a little anti-hero, and or just regular Joes. And there's tons of those out there. I'm a regular Joe. And I think I just pull from that and then I think of a story, like, oh, what's this person like and what's their background, and it helps me develop the visual, what I mean, like how it looks, how this person looks, And then of course, I mean, just the nature of character design, you use stereotypes, not like racial stereotypes,
I hear you.
but like well, I don't know if this is offensive to anybody, but like if I have a cop character, I might, make him an anthropomorphic pig, you know what I mean? Like, oh, you recognize that symbol, you know what I mean?
Sure.
So but beyond that, maybe maybe he's depressed, you know what I mean? And he lashes out on people because he hates himself, or you know what I mean? Like it's deeper than just some officer friendly or like the bad lieutenant or something like that.
Yeah.
Like why is he this way? So and then then I run to my iPad, sketch some stuff out, and redraw it. Or sometimes it comes out perfect because I'm a genius. And then and then like it's funny because I was so anti iPad when I saw students using them when I was in art school not long ago. And then I graduated, and then the pandemic happened, and I thought, oh, I'm gonna get a Cintiq and animate on that like they had at the labs at school. I did end up getting one.
Sure.
But my nephew, he was like, you need to get an iPad. He was always in my ear about it. A real tech savvy dude, Austin. And I was like, nah, I know what I want. Nah, that's not what I want. And then the pandemic happened, and I got some of that bread that they was talking about. I was like, nephew, like, tell me which iPad to get. And I've been using it ever since, man. It's crazy. But yeah, so that's what I use for my character designs.
That's dope. It almost reminded me of the Hannibal Buress joke when he was just talking about like his nephew always rags on his comedy. He's like, not funny, Hannibal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's talk about the sketchbook. Let's talk about October, right?
Yeah. Poctober sketchbook.
So for those who are undipped, unfamiliar, I don't know why they would be, but for those who are undipped and unfamiliar, let's talk about it. What was the inspiration behind it? Who's it for? What's it about? Give us the tea, as it were.
Yeah, let's go. So Poctober still is online drawing challenge on Instagram, and Reagan Buchanan, she started it because she was sick of Inktober and the prompts that they have, and she's very much a punk rock, person or whatever, and she just wanted to see some of that type of thing, use those as prompts, for her own thing, and she's a big history buff, I believe. That's how I see her.
Yeah,
and I was in art school at the time. It was just weird. I don't know what you call that, serendipity or whatever. But like, I had a project that was supposed to be a new drawing every day of the month. And, Reagan is friends with my brother. And my brother was saying like, yeah, I can't quite remember how it happened, but this is how I remember it. But like, yeah, Reagan's doing a thing. And I was like, oh yeah, I want to do that because that falls right in line with this project I got into.
right.
And when I learned that it was about like the focus was on Black punk rockers, and people of color, people who have been doing that genre of music for years.
Yeah.
And it was really good, like I really dug it because I'm into punk too, and so I think the first time she might have had already had a list. I don't know, I can't remember, but every time after that, she's like, you want to do it again? I'm like, yeah, bet.
Yeah.
And interest started growing on the Instagram, and other people would draw the prompts.
Yeah.
And that was dope. You know what I mean? Like, oh, y'all like to do this too, But yeah, so then the following years we would like talk about who we want to see in it, and she Reagan's always got a whole bunch of bands that she's ready to to use and talk about. And I did too, and we just kind of like met in the middle and come up with a new list. Give it some flair, promote it a little bit, get heads ready, like, yeah, it's coming up again. And we would showcase other people's drawings, and I remember my sister, who's just like really she's creative in like ideas, So why don't you come out with a book? I'm like, I guess, I don't know. And I mentioned it to Reagan, and next thing you know, we did a book, a zine, I guess, because I mean that specifically zines because that's like rooted in punk rock culture, the whole DIY thing, getting the word out, talking about this band and that band. Except we are showing drawings of these bands and giving you a little information about them. Also, we would write articles and then it turned into articles and interviews, with different musicians. And, both of us have built relationships with other musicians that we talk about and end up getting work from them too, like this community, online ended up and you meet them in person and go to their shows and stuff like that, So it just like turning into something bigger and bigger every time. So I think I'm really excited about it. It's unique. It's niche. And obviously there's other people doing stuff because there's been a movement going on artistically with Black artists, just visual and all across the board. And I like to think we're like contributing to what's happening now, even though there ain't no name on it. I call it a new renaissance, for real. Like it's you can see evidence of it online. But so we've done one book, one zine, two, and now we got wait. Yeah, we got three now. Yeah, so yeah, I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, no, it's great. And I had the opportunity to become aware of Reagan at SPX last year. And then I interviewed Reagan, I think in February of this year. And she raved about you. And I was just like, all right, I got to talk to this Frank character. And, because, hometown villain. And, I read things. And, and that's sort of the thing, like, seeing folks that kind of fit into like outside of that sort of norm slot that are doing things creatively that I admire. And I was just like, whatever it is, I want to support. However it works, I want to support. I want to be there to at least capture the conversation, get the insights, and help get that word out there about that work. Because in the initial sort of like prezo at SPX about the book, it was just like about the book that Reagan did and sort of like the work overall. Definitely the historian component was there, and definitely the thing that really perked my ears up. And I heard it from like sort of, what you were describing there a moment ago. These artists, these musicians, these people from a scene and from a community that aren't getting their due, that aren't getting their stories out there and archived and covered. So taking from sort of this lack, having Inktober, it's like, yeah, that's fine. You guys got that. That's your thing. We're going to do our own thing. Mm-hmm. And I dig that. And in it, that is punk rock.
Yeah, it's completely punk rock. And, it's not just, like that the spirit of punk lives, and it's not just old school artists that we feature. There's a whole lot of new bands that have punk influence. People of color, Black bands, musicians doing that same thing. They have a heavy punk influence, and I'm learning about new stuff all the time. As they happen, and yeah, it's just interesting to see. It's interesting. It's interesting to see what's happening. It's like what's expanding.
It's the thing that you touched on earlier. Black people aren't a monolith. And, and there was a podcast that I used to do called Unofficially Black. And it was coming from this idea that a buddy and we would go see professional wrestling, and we would travel for it. We were in, and I told you who I interviewed earlier, right? And so, and he was a Black dude too. So we're talking about it, and he was just like, yo, people always tell me, this is years ago, probably 2018, 2017, when we started and did that thing. He was like, yo, whenever I tell people I'm traveling to go see this wrestling show or go do that, I'm told all the time, oh, Black people don't do that.
Yeah.
And that's why we started the podcast.
Yeah.
Of like trying to, demystify things that Black people seem to like, but like in the closet, like, for a long time, Black people don't like anime. It's like, yo, when dude that did Dragon Ball passed, I just saw black tears. So let's keep it 100,
Real talk. Yeah. Yeah, real talk. And I don't think I'm being like exaggerating when I say Black people is always there. You know what I mean? At the start of somewhere, always, even in the places you wouldn't imagine, And yeah, I guess when you think of Ohio, you probably don't think of like Black punk rockers. You know what I mean?
I do not.
They're here. They've been here. You know what I mean? And then when you consider like the origins of certain music, like it's always a Black American that has their hand in it. And then it got taken and bastardized and homogenized and repackaged. And, sometimes I say it jokingly, but I don't want to curse myself by repeating it all the time. But I be like, don't ever be the first person to do something. You know what I mean? But that's not necessarily true. I mean, you can always come back and like, hey, I was there,
It's really timely that you mentioned that, right? I saw this old clip that was unearthed from what was it, John Thompson? And he literally said that same thing in 1984.
What's that?
I don't want to be the black first that has like an NCAA championship or something.
Yeah.
He's like, so this is 1984. So this is 40 years ago, you know what I mean? And he's just like, oh, yeah, so, just not good enough ever. He's like, that's what that's kind of denoting, that we were never good enough until this point, and I was the best to do it. And it is something about that sort of first. It's a little bit of a sneak diss.
Yeah. I mean, in my eyes, when I learn of who was the first to do this and that and the third, it's like inspiring to me. You know what I mean? Like it's not for nothing. Even though, man, they should have got paid more. They should have got more exposure. You know what I mean? But we're gonna keep this history going. We're gonna keep talking about it now. You know what I mean? And show people, who didn't know previously. So
that's what we got.
Like especially when it comes to music, historically, you see Black artists getting screwed. You know what I mean? They screwed themselves and they got screwed over.
So being able to be a part of, reminding people and illuminating people of the work that is out there, and and we'll close on this before I move into the rapid fire question, because you're getting those as well. You said you're a villain. I'm a villain.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Let's go.
But I think it's really important to be able to do that, and to my own slice, that's what I aim to do with this. I try to talk to a lot of different people, and the only sort of rule is, if there is a rule, don't be boring. That's literally what it is. Just come with a story. So I want to move into these rapid fire. I got 4 of them for you. And as I tell people all the time, don't overthink these. You said it earlier. You got to be on your toes.
Yeah, I try.
So I'm going to give you a softball because I'm going to be nice, and then it's going to get a little different.
Okay, I appreciate that.
So the first one, flats or drums?
Drums.
You get it.
Yeah,
I don't like flats.
Like, come on. Flats. Like, life is hard already. Like, why make it harder on yourself?
That's good. I see some people that just chew the bone. I'm like, are you wilding? Why are you doing this?
They got that dog in them. Literally.
So let's see. So I think we all have these moments where we kind of lose sight of why we do what we do, right? When you lose sight, if you lose sight, but when you lose sight, how do you get back on track? Like, how do you get back to, okay, this is why I'm pursuing this. This is why I'm showing work in this way and doing work in it. This is why I'm collaborating. This is why I'm trying to help tell the stories in, the October sketchbook. How do you get back to that why?
It's almost like my body be telling me to get back before I even realize, Like, I'm already a pretty high energy type person, but I get anxious, I get tense, I feel extra angst. Yeah. And I'm like, I might even get tight in the shoulders, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, what's wrong with me? You know what I mean? Like, what's going on? And then I realize, oh, I'm not using my outlet. I kind of depend on it. It's like a form of therapy. I'm sure other people said that before, but I kind of got to keep doing it, I'm liable to punch a hole in the wall or something, So it brings me, it's simple to at least know where it is, like on a compass, because it gives me joy. You know what I mean? Like It's, oh, that's where my happiness is.
Right. I hear you. You mentioned earlier some interesting pop culture references, some from your youth. What is one show? Like if you're like, hey, Frank, we're coming to you. We want you to animate this reboot of, let's say, a cartoon from your youth. It has to be something you watched as a kid. They're rebooting it. What is the cartoon?
I mean, I guess pole position, like off the top of my head.
Yeah.
It was a show in the 80s called Pole Position. Like most shows, it was it had a Japanese anime style. Those, they send those to overseas for them to work on and stuff. And it was about cars, and I'm like, man, you could do a lot with that right now. And it had a talking computer that had a face, like a little smiley face.
Yo, I'm gonna watch the F out of this. I've never heard of this.
Yeah, it's like obscure now, but I mean, like everything else, looking back at it, was made to sell toys. So maybe the toy wasn't as successful, and then they just canned the show. But I actually kind of accidentally watched it yesterday. I was like, oh, pole position, I remember this.
I'm watching that. Watching that after this.
Or Robotech, and that everybody. I think that's a wider known brand, but it's crazy that it's not been rebooted. I know there's a lot of issues for that reason, but man, if it ever gets rebooted, I would love to work on that. Even if it were like live action and I could do storyboard work for it. And I wasn't even like a deep fan, but I've come to appreciate it more as an adult.
See, this is sort of the point where we're almost manifesting it a little bit, right?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, come happen.
Give me
all that juju. Right, yeah, let's
give me your powers.
Right, make it happen.
So this is the last one, and I think this is a good way to put a pin in all of it, right? In your opinion, with the exception of yourself, who is the most understood villain? Because you're a hometown villain. I've read that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know a lot of villains, man. Yeah, some of my homeboys,
We meet up at the League of Villainry. It's all good.
Yeah, knock a couple back, you know what I'm saying? But okay, yeah, these are some rapid fire questions because I had to think. You said the most understood?
Misunderstood.
Most misunderstood. Yeah. Oh, Frankenstein's monster.
It's good.
Yeah, most misunderstood.
I'm glad you didn't do the typical thing. Like, well, obviously it's Killmonger or Magneto. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go over here.
Nah.
So in these final moments, there are two things I want to do. One, I want to thank you for coming on, being a part of the podcast. This has been a lot of fun. And two, I want to invite and encourage you in these final moments, tell folks where they can check you out, website, social media, and where folks can, check out the sketchbook and perhaps buy the sketchbook.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. You can find me on the socials. Not all of them. I don't do Twitter no more. But Instagram, Southside Frank _0.2. I put a lot of quick sketches up there. Some more things I'm trying to work out, like ideas and stuff, and then just something throwaway drawings. Usually pretty entertaining. At least, obviously, I would say that. And then you can get the books, the Pottober sketchbooks, at SouthsideFrank.com. It's my website. You got for sale up there, so check it out.
Well, there you have it, folks. I want to again thank Southside Frank for coming onto the podcast and blessing us with a bit of this journey. And I am Rob Lee, saying that there's art, culture, and community in and around your neck of the woods. You've just got to look for it.